So what are you doing? What are you always doing? How satisfied have you been today with your little lot? Excuse me. How satisfied are you with the conditions, with the circumstances around yourself right now? What are you always doing? I'll tell you what you're always doing. You are always doing avoidance. You are avoiding relationship with whatever is happening right now. You are not with whatever is happening right now. You're not really with whatever you are doing right now. What do I mean by you are not with? Not quite sure, really. We say you are doing this, or you are not doing this, or I am doing this and I am doing that. Isn't there a dissatisfaction throughout your day? You're not really satisfied. You're always looking elsewhere, are you not? There's always something more interesting. What's that saying? It's always greener on the other side of the fence. What is not satisfied? What is not being intimate? Well, all I know is that this body-mind is inherently, do you understand the word inherent? Already a causal, uncaused, already uncaused happiness, already uncaused intimate, already uncaused joy and delight. That which is uncaused is, dare I say it, God. It's a mystery. It's just as it is. Water is wet. It's just as it is. We cannot analyze wetness, just as you cannot analyze God. No one can have wetness as something separate from the liquid that is wet. You just cannot. But you know wetness. Wetness is so obvious, just as dryness is so obvious. I hung up some clothes, some wet clothes yesterday, and these were washed yesterday, these tracksuit bottoms, and I know that they, or this bit of the tracksuit, is dry. The majority of this tracksuit is dry, but the hem is slightly damp. There's no getting away from that fact. But I said to myself, Well, I want to wear these tracksuits this morning, and a little bit of dampness, I say to myself, will dry. It won't be long before it's dry. Where does that wetness go to? It evaporates. Mysteriously, it evaporates. Part of just. We've got to accept happenings in life to be mysterious. To be, oh, that's just as it is. We don't question water being wet. We just don't question it. We accept it. But we go around with all these beliefs which don't really grow us. They don't really satisfy us. We're so not satisfied. Your mother, just as my mother, told me you mustn't touch that because it's hot. And that's a belief. We go around believing our mums. My mummy said, I mustn't touch that, it's hot. I have, the child, the other person says, I've touched it. So I say, well, is it hot? Well, I certainly didn't want to keep my finger on it for very long. If that's what hot means. We have to learn all these, the meanings of all these concepts when we're very young. It takes a while. We can't go through life not having touched something that's hot. And in that touching, we realise that our mum was correct. And it becomes a reality. It's no longer a belief. How many beliefs do we have that aren't our reality? I always use this example. My mother said, I don't like baked beans, beans in tomato sauce. And I said to her, well, how do you know you don't like them? You've never eaten them. She said, oh, I know I don't like them. So that's what we do with beliefs. We convince ourselves that beliefs are true. They're not true, necessarily. A lot of it's imagining. We imagine. Such a lot in our head. We imagine. But it's not real. You can imagine an apple in your head. But it's not real. You can't eat imagination. So God is... my phone. I don't think I'll answer it. Well, imagining, yes. We imagine God. We talk about God. Millions and millions of people right now are talking about God. They bow down to God. They bow down and pray to God. So they believe. But it's in the imagination. It's a belief. It's something you've been told. It's a ritual. It's something that you do. It consoles, possibly, but doesn't always console. Gives you hope, possibly, but doesn't always give you hope. It's something you do because it's part and parcel of your culture. You're expected to do it. You don't want to be seen to be against You want to conform. But surely you have a first-hand knowledge of what God is, an inherent knowledge. Have you not had moments in your life where you have been unreasonably happy for no apparent reason? I'm not talking about happiness when you receive something it's made you happy. I'm not talking about anything that has made you happy, but you've just unreasonably been happy for no apparent reason. Surely when a little dog comes in the room, you go, oh, your disposition changes. The majority of people's dispositions is a seriousness. So serious about life. I'm talking about our inherent condition, which is the same as the wetness of water. It's inherent. You cannot separate wetness from water, but that's what we're doing. We're doing an act of separation, which is sin, which I call the self-contraction. The body-mind is inherently happy, inherently open, inherently joyful, delightful, intimate. It's inherently already in relationship. I don't need to try to be in a relationship with anything. I don't need to try to be joyful or try to be happy or try to be intimate. I already am. But we're not allowing the body-mind simply to be its innate, inherent nature. We're screwing our body-minds up. We're doing the self-contraction, which is not necessary. And that self-contraction creates illusions and delusions and confusions. The self-contraction is behind. That doing is behind everything that the body-mind is supposedly doing. The destiny of ego is unhappiness. The destiny of ego is seeking for happiness. The destiny of ego is doubt, fear, anxiety, uncertainties, confusion, boredom, frustrations, irritabilities, beliefs, fear, that's what I've said that already. The wanting of stimulations, the wanting of consolations, the wanting to be liked, the wanting to be acknowledged. Instead of simply being already happy. And that's what has to be recognized. Where is this quote? My teacher, Adidas Samraj, has written such a lot that has liberated me from this act of seeking. I came across my teacher, Adidas Samraj, some 35 years ago. And he has simply asked me to forget all about that nonsense because it's not real, by practicing devotion. Devotion, this act of devotion away from this. If it doesn't immediately, eventually, the body-mind becomes and starts living as it should, without the knots, without the tightnesses, without the stresses, without the tensions, without the self-contraction, because you're no longer doing it. As he said to me, Peter, if you don't devotionally recognize me, meaning recognizing me as the agent to God, the doorway to God, if you like, because he lived that state of, he lived full time in that disposition of already happiness, joy, delight, love, bliss. And he says, you become what you meditate on. So keep turning to me. Become the devotee. So he says, if I am not devotionally recognized, there is an enormity of world and ego self to be figured out. This is where the confusion comes in the head, always trying to figure things out, always wanting to be liked and accepted, always wanting to be right. And there are always a lot of things yet to seek. The ego, this self-contraction, is always propelling, it's firing bullets. It's like a machine gun. It's crazy. It's like running around. It's like being a headless chicken, that phrase. And look how everyone is on the road. All these cars and drivers wanting to get from A to B manically. It's manic. Is that the way to live? But then he says, when I am devotionally recognized, there is not anything to do anymore because there is no problem and therefore no basis for seeking. None whatsoever. So in that recognition, it's like forgetting the clouds and remembering the sun. Look at the sun coming in now. The sun isn't always apparent. This is why beliefs come into its existence, because God isn't apparent. Happiness isn't apparent. But you can see, and there's no way that I can not demonstrate happiness, because I am happiness. It's just a flow. The real happiness is crazy. It's ecstatic. But I can't go out in the world. I have to conform. When in Rome, do as Romans do. But I'm happy to conform. You're happy to serve. You're happy to live. You're happy to be with people. You're happy to not be with people. You're happy to play with the duality of life. You're happy to play with all the weathers. You've got an intelligence about you. True intelligence is innate. You know the difference between crap and beauty. You know the difference between tidiness and untidiness. You know the difference between cleanliness and unclean. We all know the difference between living correctly and not living so correctly. nothing becomes a problem. It's not a problem if you spill some milk on the carpet. It's just as it is, and you do your best to. Oh dear. Oh no, look what I've just done. Oh no, not again. Caring is innate. It's all part and parcel. The quality of water is wetness, but the quality and qualities of God, it's all beautiful stuff. Love, bliss, joy, delight, caring, in relationship, expressive, creative, accepting. But yes, you can still get angry at times. There's nothing wrong in getting angry. It's real anger. It's open anger. No contraction. Sorrow is real sorrow. Is so expressive. Real sadness. There's no contraction. The open hand disposition, the body-mind disposition, is simply allowed to be all of those expressions without any knots. And it's just a dance. It's just a song. It's just wonderful. I was just going to say, but believe me. You see, Adidas taught me there are 3 types of people from this place. The solid type, always thinking. Academics are like this, always wanting to know the answer. And then well, I don't think about that. Well, that could be right. But have you ever considered this? And the stiff upper lip type person, and afraid, fearful of really enjoying life. Then there's the vital person, always in their body, out of their head, in their body, full of energy, full of get up and go business, never rested. And then there's the peculiar person, which I have a tendency to be, always in their feelings. Well, that was yesterday. I felt like that yesterday, but today I feel like this. I feel that person, he's really hurt me. He really has upset me. Well, I feel really excited today. Oh yes, let's go. The peculiar. So there's these 3 types: solid, always in the head, blinkered, and the vital, always in their body, and busyness, always busy, and the peculiar, never ever constant. There's no feeling that is. So this is why we have to find that constant. And the constant for me is the divine person, Adidas Samraj. And linking up and communing is that constant. And then the body-mind becomes constantly, if not immediately, one of just unreasonable, already inherent happiness. Thank you for listening. I hope this is loud enough. Some people have been saying I'm not speaking up, but I'm unable to sort of raise my voice and talk like that all the time. But when I play back these videos, it's loud, it's adequately loud. I don't understand. This is an Apple iPad. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little, I don't know, discourse, is it? Talk? Certainly not a lecture. I hope I don't come over as lecturing anyone. Certainly not preaching. And certainly not a sermon. It's a sharing. I like to call it a sharing. Thank you.